Hello, fellow Sparkian. Kingsley Grant here from Happier Marriage Secrets, where we are on a mission to make marriages happier again. And as you might be aware, divorce is on the uptick. It's a Kingsley. It has always been. Well, yes, it has always been. It's 50% according to the statistics of marriages, of first marriages end in divorce. So yes, it's been around for some time, and maybe this is not any breaking news, you might be saying, and you're right. But I find that more and more in the news today, because of the people involved, it seems like divorces are on the divorce is on the uptick, right? And one of those even recent ones that there are just so many, unfortunately, and I don't say this with any sense of happiness. It's really sadness when I think about it. But one of those happened to be that of popular rapper Jay Jenkins, also known as Jeezy, and his wife of 2 years, Jeannie Mai Jenkins. And so today we're going to talk about the 5 hard truths about Jeezy and Jeannie Mai's divorce, right? 5 hard truths about their divorce. But here's what you won't hear in this episode, in this video. You won't hear me bashing either of them. You won't hear me trying to sound as if I have the inside scoop on what has happened in their marriage. You won't hear me trying to hype what has happened to them, as some others are doing, and trying to get, this first strike, first news, breaking news, as if they know what transpired in the marriage, what led to this. You won't hear that from me. I'm not here to try to get these clicks and likes, because let me be here to speculate and assume and spread rumors or false allegations. I just don't know. So you're not going to hear those things from me. What you will hear, and I promise this, what you will hear from me is how I'm going to point out how you can safeguard your marriage against an outcome like theirs. As I unpack these 5 hard truths about their divorce, about Jeezy and Jeannie Mai's divorce, that could save your marriage. That's what I promise you that you're going to hear in this video, in this episode today, as you listen. Now, for you, my podcast listeners, you'll need to watch this video to see some of the images that we'll be sharing as we unpack these 5 hard truths. You might also be wondering why I greeted you in the beginning as a fellow Sparkian. Well, I just see Sparkians as people who are wanting to put the spark back into their marriage. And they also have a number of other virtues that I believe that qualifies you to be a Sparkian. And so you'll hear more about that as we continue to share these ideas with you as we unpack in both this video and others as well. Now, so let's get into today's topic, the 5 hard truths about Jeezy and Jeannie Mai's divorce. Now, before I do, let me set the stage for what happened, what I have done my own due diligence in researching and trying to figure out what has transpired. What do we know? Not what we are speculating, not what we are assuming, not what we are gossiping or spreading rumors about. What do we do? What do we know about what transpired? Now, the news broke that Jeezy filed for divorce from his wife, Jeannie, on September 14th, 2023. Some reports have stated that Jeezy had put the divorce proceeding in place about 3 months prior to when he actually filed for divorce. He actually was thinking and planning this whole divorce idea months prior to this petitioning for divorce. He also, based on what I have heard and what I've researched, is that he stated that they were in a separated situation for some time. And he's now asking for custody of his daughter that he's shared with Jeannie, and is also enforcing the prenuptial agreement they had coming into their marriage. Now, whether that holds up or not is left to be seen, and that's not for me to discuss or even to speculate about. The crazy thing is that about 10 days prior to the divorce petition being filed, his wife, Jeannie, she posted a video of her and her daughter praying and thanking God for the success of Jeezy's new book, his New York best-selling book that just came out. And she's praying and excited and happy for daddy, and telling her daughter to pray for daddy and thanking God for that, and excited about what's happening. And it seems like in this gushing that she seemed to be always doing about her marriage and her relationship, that she had no idea what was in the works and what was going to hit her a few days later. So it didn't seem like she was, or if she knew, and that she was just fronting it, putting on a strong front, knowing that this could be possibly happening, and wanted to project to the world what, in her mind, how she thought about the marriage, and if there's any problems, it's going to be on her husband. Who knows what was happening. But this is not what this episode is about. As I mentioned before, we are staying with what we do know. Now, it must be noted that this is Jeannie's second marriage and Jeezy's first, right? It wasn't too long after divorcing her first husband that she got into a relationship with Jeezy. And I'm not sure if she was in any other relationship prior to him after her divorce, but we know that it was not too long after that they got into this relationship, whom she later married, and were married for 2 years, thereabouts. Now, in the public's eyes, their marriage seemed to be the envy, right, of many people. She was almost always talking about their relationship, which is a good thing. It's how I believe, people should think about their marriage. And she's portraying how great it was and how much she was in love with Jeezy. So on the surface, where people are surprised and in shock because they're wondering, how did we go from that to this? How did that happen? And so sometimes we have to be careful of making, looking at what we see and trusting that that is what it's, what is truly happening. We just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. If you watched my previous video on Ben Affleck and J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, you saw a behavior that I shared, a video that went viral, over 1 million plus views, of just what he did in that few seconds, 15 seconds long, and what I shared about the 5 lessons that can be learned from what we saw in that 15 seconds. And so it's not always what seems to be portrayed, right? It's a lesson that we have to take. It's not always, I grew up with this saying, not all that glitters is gold, right? Not all that glitters is gold. So when the news broke about this, unfortunate situation, it was a shock to so many people. Majority of people did not see it coming. Now, I must also, this is for transparency, I'm not going to act as if I have been a fan of either of them, meaning I've been watching them and been into what they've been doing. I really haven't. I had to go back and look into who they really are a little bit to find out more about them. So, I'm not the expert on their lives about what they all are about. So someone asked me a question recently. I did a post on that, a short on Jeezy and Jeannie's divorce, news break. And someone asked in the comment, what happened? Tell me what happened. And I'm saying, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not the person to ask about what happened. And even if, no one really fully knows other than the couple, and when they might be made public about more what happened, then we'll know more about it at that time. So it was a shock, I believe, for a lot of people. Now, of course, there's always those who I call the Monday morning crowd, who are coming out after the game on Sunday, right? And they're coming out of the woodworks and talking about how they saw it coming and how they were not good for each other and so on. Why now? Why weren't they saying, now maybe granted, they might be, some have been saying those things and just didn't, become the news because it was being said in quiet places or in private. But again, there's always those who are now publicly coming out and speaking out about, these ideas of red flags. I saw this red flag. I saw that red flag. Come on, give me a break. No, so let's get back on. I digressed briefly. So that is what I wanted to share with you to create a set-in for today's topic: the 5 hard truths about Jeezy and Jeannie Mai's divorce. I want to warn you that I will say some things that are not politically correct in our society, especially in the Western world. So buckle up, okay? So here we go from the top. First truth is avoid psychics and other forms of divination when it comes to your marriage or your relationship or any part of your life, okay? The Bible condemns consulting with psychics and other forms of divination when it comes to your life, because it is a form of idolatry and a lack of trust in God. You're trusting in or trying to trust in something to know about your future. And no one knows your future but God. He's the only person. So when you go to a psychic, like Jeannie did, she went to an astrologer to find out about her marriage. Tell me about my marriage. What will it be like? Will it survive? Will this be my last marriage? And will we grow old together? Those kind of things. Listen, that's dangerous ground you're on. Seek God about your marriage, because nobody knows but him, and you're treading on dangerous territory. It's reported that the psychic or the astrologer said to her that your second marriage will be your last marriage. Well, here we are. And she may have paid money. I don't know. She may have paid, because many times you have to pay a lot of money to hear from a psychic or its astrologer. But my friend, listen, you can go directly to God and ask him to protect your marriage, to give you the wisdom you need in your marriage, and trust your future of your marriage in his hand. When we seek guidance from psychics and astrologers, we're putting our faith into something other than God, which can lead us to make poor decisions because they don't know. And you're, in a sense, trying to access demonic and spirits that are not from God. It allows you to stray from God's will for your relationship and for your life. Okay? God is the ultimate source of wisdom, my friend, and guidance. And we should always turn to him when we need help, not to psychic, not to astrologers. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying this is what caused it, but I can tell you it doesn't help a relationship, because it put in her mind this idea, oh, the astrologer, the psychic said this, and it must be true. Well, how had that played out? So there's a warning here. So the first hard truth, and as you can tell, these are hard truths. Do not consult with psychics or astrologers when it comes to your relationship or anything to do with your life. Trust in God. Seek God. Second truth, the impact of divorce on individuals and others around them. The impact of divorce. Divorce today is almost like, oh, okay, we just get divorced. And people throw that word around so easily. They just don't think about it. It's almost like, okay, I think in the Bible, there was a time where Jesus was asked this question, about divorce and when should people get divorced? Because at the time, people were divorcing for everything. A wife burns her husband's toast, or the husband, it was a male-dominant society, so the man was the one who was always seeking divorce anyway. So, she couldn't do right. If she did anything that he recognized that she did wrong, divorce. And so it was a problem in the days of Jesus, and he was asked this question. He was also asked this question about divorce, and he gave the answer that he said divorce was not something that was from the beginning. Moses gave the writ or the license or the permission to divorce, but it was not God's intention. God, when he said to get married, he said, for life or death. When you get married, it's life or death. When you die, then you may seek remarriage. But marriage was until death do us part. I think we made marriage so easy today. They have this thing called no-fault divorce. I mean, you can just divorce for any reason. That is one of our problems in our society. One of the problems in our society, we made divorce so easy. I wish it was so hard. You know, I was speaking to someone that from the Philippines who said in the Philippines, they made divorce so hard. You don't divorce. When you get married, you stay married. You work it out. Now, I'm not saying you should always stay in a marriage if there's abuse and, you know, physical abuse occurring. No. And unfortunately, there's extremes on both sides. Some people say you should always remain married. I don't subscribe to that idea. I don't think God also subscribed to the idea, because he hates abuse. When there's physical abuse, he speaks about that in the Old Testament. So God is not for that either. But God hates divorce because of what it does to the individuals involved and others around them. Divorce can cause great pain. If you've ever been divorced, you know what I'm talking about. It's suffering and pain, both emotionally and financially. And it's, most studies have shown where the wife, the woman, is the one who suffers even greater from a divorce, because she is in a financially less, in a financial situation where she suffers more from a divorce than the husband does. Now, I know there's always exceptions to everything, but typically that's what happens. So it can have a negative impact on children, and I'll share about that in a few minutes, and extended family members and friends. And so it's like a disease. It's like a cancer type of thing where it just permeates everything around it. So that's why God hates it. He hates what divorce does to people and their lives and their families, and to, you know, it upends everything. And that's why he warns against that. And I know I'm preaching here, but I'm just passionate about this. You know, divorce, does it happen? Is it an option? Yes. Okay, I'm not going to say here and say somehow it should never, ever, ever happen. So please don't hear me saying that. But the reason why God hates it, because of what it does, the pain it caused. And God, when he sees his creation suffering because of divorce, it hurts his heart, because that's not what he intended. That's not what he wants for you, or for me, for anybody, for Jeezy or Jeannie Mai. That's not what God wanted. But unfortunately, because what Jesus said, the reason why divorce occurs, here's his answer. He says, because of the hardness of someone's heart. Someone's heart have become hardened. And that's why I recommend that if you're going through a very, very difficult time, seek professional help, but seek the right professional help. Someone who will be truthful to both of you and not take sides, who's on the side of the relationship, not on one side or the other, but on the relationship side, and who will be truthful and honest and help you to understand that, you know, let's probably look at other options rather than divorce. I believe divorce is an option, but it's an option that people want to reach out because they feel there's nothing else. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless. They feel like this is the only thing they have left. My friend, is not, really not. I have, you know, in my work as a counselor and as a relationship coach, I can tell you, I have seen people come back from the brink of divorce and today are living happy lives. Studies have shown that people who have divorced 5 years after divorce, majority of those people regretted having divorced. They wish they have stayed in the marriage that they have. So seeking support from loved ones and professionals is very important. So here's what I do, you know, as a counselor, a marriage and licensed marriage and family therapist, and a certified relationship coach. I don't coach people or counsel people to divorce. I will counsel and coach them through a divorce that they have initiated on their own. I can counsel with them through the pain and how to normalize and get their lives back on track. But I don't counsel for divorce or coach for divorce or to divorce. I will coach or counsel through it, once that they have made the decision and have divorced, then I can, of course, because God, he hates divorce, but he always, always love a person, a divorcee. He always loves them the same way. He does not love them less because they've divorced. And there's hope after divorce. And I want to mention that point. Truth number 3, the challenge of second marriages. The challenges of second marriages. Second marriages can be challenging for a number of reasons. And in this case, this is Jeannie Mai's second marriage, right? Because you're bringing into that marriage a lot of baggages. I use the word baggages here, or trauma or pain, things that you get out of the marriage from because you wanted something different. But you're going to bring that into a second marriage. And that's why the studies and statistics have said 60% of second marriages end and fails. Over 60%, I think it's 68%, if I'm trying to be more accurate here, my statistic mentioning the statistics here, I think it's 68% of second marriages, if not more, end up failing. Because why? You're coming in and there's a pain from the first marriage. There is a hesitancy. You're more sensitive to certain things. You're more hyper vigilant. You have a history of what that was like, and you're now hoping that the second marriage may not be. But the moment something happens, you're going to become like, see, and you start spiraling. Now, does second marriages ever work? There's always exceptions to everything I've heard. So don't say, oh, yes, but that person's second marriage worked, so mine will always work. That's not necessarily true. The chance of it working, 68%, my friend, almost 7 out of 10 marriages, second marriages fail, right? Because you're going to have different expectations. And thirdly, so first, the couple, you come in with the baggages and from a previous marriage. Second, you have different expectations for the marriage because you've had a first marriage already. And third, you have to deal with the stigma of having been divorced, so that you're bringing it also into your second marriage. Okay, so I want to say that couples, I want to say that that's what, if you just heard that, just Siri heard me use the word divorce and is now popping its head. That's what I hate about this sometimes. This phone so being so close to me, it just like, so I don't want to say that if you heard it, what that was, it's just a nosy, it touches its phone, it's listening to your conversation, not talking to it, but it's going to talk to you, right? So I want to advise that if you're considering a second marriage, I wanted to just the importance of seeking help and communication and compromising and forgiveness and really make sure that you're aware of this coming in. So there's the challenges of second marriage, and that was the case, I believe, in Jeannie Mai's situation. Now, there's before I get to the fourth and fifth hard truth, you heard them, they're hard. I know. And I'm not setting myself up as some prude or some kind of person that says my marriage is perfect. No, I've had challenges in my marriage. But here's what we have committed to, my wife and I, that divorce is not an option for us. I've heard the late Billy Graham and his wife, Ruth Graham, they've asked her about how their relationship, their marriage. And she said, no, divorce is not an option for us. But murder has been on the table. She's just jokingly saying that. She's not saying she don't get her husband. She never did. They were married forever until he died, and then she died afterwards. So for many, many years, right? So my wife and I, we've committed. Divorce is not an option for us. We're going to work it through. And we've had some struggles in our marriage, but thanks for the grace of God, we've worked that through. So you're going to have challenges, but with God's help, it's possible. But once you bring divorce into the question, into the conversation, and bring that D word into the conversation and open that door, once you open the door and throw that into the mix, that we should just get divorced, my friend, I find that many people who have entertained that conversation and brought divorce into the mix tend to end up divorced. Because why? They've invited in that possibility. and it's lurking around. It's lurking in the shadows. And Satan, I believe in Satan. I hope you do too. The devil will take that and will begin to show you why that divorce might be a better thing. And he makes it, you know what he did in the Garden of Eden with Eve? He made what God warned them against, the fruit of that tree of knowledge and of the tree of knowledge. You know, I forgot, I just skipping my mind here. But that tree that God warned him don't eat off. And the devil, once he showed her, and it made her seem that the fruit was good for consuming, and he showed her, and he made that fruit so once it was so detestable, and no, we should never go close that, and it began to coax her, and once it entered the picture and the frame, and he drew her closer, it seems much beautiful, and it seemed tasty. And she, of course, bit the fruit. We don't know what the fruit it was. Some says an apple. We don't know that. All we know, it was a fruit, right, of knowledge and good and evil. And she ate it, and we know that history. So once you bring divorce on the table into the mix, it's like what Satan now begin to make divorce seem so appealing, and he begins to work on you and work on you and work on you, and before long, it becomes a reality. That's why we say it should not be an option, and you keep it from the conversation. Now, before I share with you the fourth and fifth truth about the divorce of Jeezy and Jeannie Mai Jenkins, and that could end up saving your marriage, please oblige me to share a few important announcements that I believe also will be helpful to you. And the first one is this. Let me ask you to hit the subscribe button, right? That's what is from me. So that's where beneficial for me. Hit the subscribe button. It's one of those ways that this channel will have a broader reach, and for subscription, and also will help this channel. So please hit that subscription button even right now. Go ahead and do it even now as we're talking. Secondly, if you would like to a way to assess the state of your marriage as a Sparkian, and you want to know what to do to improve the state of your marriage, you may want to take the Happier Marriage Assessment quiz at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And that quiz will help you to see the state of your marriage and what to do to improve your marriage as a Sparkian. And thirdly, I do have a podcast. It's called the Happier Marriage Secrets Podcast, where you can access a number of topics that I have covered and talk about the topic of marriage and relationships. And you can also hear the interviews I've done there as well with a spouse or a couple, and that you can find at the Happier Marriage Secrets Podcast. And if you are new to this channel and you're a little curious about who I am to be hosting this channel and speaking the way that I do, here's a brief overview of who I am. You heard me mention I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. I've had the privilege of working with hundreds of couples over the last 2 decades, and have had countless numbers of them. Countless numbers of couples, right? Even as you heard me mention, couples who've been on the brink of divorce or separated, and God has used me to help them. Okay, I'm not saying everyone has ended up in success, but I can tell you a majority that I've worked with, who have worked with me, have left our working environment and said, I feel better, we feel hopeful, and they've gone on their way. What has happened today, that's in their hand and between them and God, but I have done my best. And so I've seen a lot of relationships over the years. And I have also been married myself for 38 years of marriage as of this recording, with 2 adult children. So I've been very blessed and favored by God. And I've also been a published author of some books you can see on Amazon. So what I'm talking about is from my personal and professional experience as well, not just making some things up like so many people are doing on the internet, and unfortunately. So what are the last 2 truths, hard truths, that we're learning on the divorce of Jeezy and Jeannie Mai Jenkins that could end up saving our marriage? Hard truth number 4, the impact of divorce on children. They have a young child. Now, Jeezy have had 3 other children, so this is his 4th, right? Now, I'm not sure if he wasn't married, so of course he's had those children. I'm not sure he's the same mom or other moms, but here is added to the mix 1 more child. And so the impact on divorce, imagine what the trauma, even that video that Jeannie Mai shared about her and her daughter praying and clasping hand and asking God about dad and the success. And now dad is no longer in the picture as far as a husband. Yes, as a father, but as a husband and wife raising that daughter. That's been disrupted. Divorce. And that's why God hates this thing, man, because it's messed up now. Another family, another child. Now a dad, yes, the dad will be there, but it won't have a dad and mom raising the child as God intended and have a balance, a father and a mother in the house as God intended, right? That's been disrupted because of divorce. So somebody is going to have to raise this child on either side. So it has a significant impact when people say, oh, a child is so resilient and they'll bounce back. Come on, don't put that burden on that child. They didn't ask for this. And don't use that as a way to get a divorce and say, oh, they'll be okay. No, how do you know they'll be okay? Don't let me start on this one here. You can hear the passion in my, because I have to work, and many of my colleagues are the ones who have to help put the pieces back together. I've seen so many children of divorce as adults today who are still struggling. It has a significant impact both emotionally and psychologically and sometimes physically on children. So this range of emotions on this young child, imagine this little girl now won't have daddy and mommy in the home. So she will be shuffled and, shuffled back and forth between homes. That's not what God intended. That's not healthy. Does it happen? Yes. Is it a reality for many kids? Yes. But don't tell me it's not doing something to that child. You may have experienced that yourself. And this is what I find I see so often in counsel, the caution of rebounding from a previous relationship. Hard truth, rebounding from a past relationship. I can tell you that when I read, what the little I do read and know of the story of Jeannie Mai, and she came out of a divorce, an 11-year marriage. Even though she says what she knew now, she should never have married her husband. People can say all those things because she's been hurt. I don't know what happened in that relationship. But what I do know is that no matter how bad it was for her, she still needed to grieve and come to terms with that past relationship. To just jump. I see so many people have this serial rebounding from one relationship to another. They've never been alone. They've never been in a relationship. Be there by themselves. It's almost like one relationship ends, they're in another relationship. That one ends, they're in another relationship. And I ask this question sometimes. I'm working with a person, individual, and they will tell me, I've never been out of a relationship. And as if it's a badge of honor. It's not. You are that common denominator. There's something that you need, you're running away from, being able to work. And, so there's insecurity. Could be a number of mental disorders. But I can tell you, until that person is able to recognize they don't no longer need a relationship to find themselves who they are, it's going to be a repeating cycle. So rebounding is something you want to look at, right? It's a common occurrence, but it can be dangerous if you haven't managed it well, because you jump into another relationship, haven't healed from your past relationship, and then it becomes a serial operation or process. And so you bring your broken self from a past relationship, not healed, into another relationship, become broken there again, and keep on being broken and broken and broken and broken. These rushing into a new relationship, my friend, you make poor decisions because you haven't had time to heal from your previous relationship. And so rebounding is not a healthy way to get yourself into, because people use rebounding. What I mean by that is that you're getting out of one relationship and you bounce into a new relationship so quickly and haven't got a chance to heal. because you're afraid of healing. You're afraid of being by yourself. You're afraid of what that means. And so you're trying to use a relationship, a new relationship, to heal you from your past relationship. That doesn't work. That's not how you heal yourself, using the one relationship to heal. You ought to heal on your own before you put another relationship on top of that. It won't hold up. It won't hold up. It's not going to be long before it lasts. And I think that's one of the issues here. Jeannie Mai have confessed herself. She said she recognized that one thing she came into this relationship with as anger issue. She was very angry and very dominant. She had this idea of, she mentioned about her mom and her grandmother, and so on, a history where she see in a female have been very, disrespectful of a male, a husband or a male partner. And her anger, she had these outrages. She mentioned, I don't know if that was what Jeezy experienced. It could be, but she recognized she needed to work on that. So imagine her rebounding with that anger, not taken care of. What's going to happen in her new relationship? It's only going to continue to get worse, because you always amp up where you left off. So this is one of the hard truths is about rebounding. The caution: be very careful about jumping off from one relationship into another relationship, because you're going to bring that into a new relationship and it's not going to be healthy. So I know this was tough, right? I know as I hear myself, I'm thinking I'm preaching, I'm being hard. But my friend, listen, I'm doing this because I believe that one of the things that God's called me to do is help people in relationships. And that's why you hear this idea of happier marriage secrets. This is one of the secrets about me, for example. How do we make marriages happier again? We've got to call things out. We got to call things out. If we don't be honest and call these things out, we're only going to perpetuate these kind of things more and more, and it's not helpful. And I'm here to help, and sometimes in helping, it might be hurting first before we heal. So this may be one of those where it sounds like I'm hurting, but my heart is, my friend, my heart is to help you have a better relationship. So now, here are the hard truths from this Jeezy and Janine relationship. Number one, the first hard truth is this: avoid psychics and other form of divination, appealing to those. Avoid that. Hard truth number two: the impact of divorce on individuals, on you, family, on individuals and others around them is a harsh, painful impact. Hard truth number three: there's a challenge, the challenges of second marriages. The challenges of second marriages. Hard truth number four: the impact of divorce on children. And hard truth number five: the caution of rebounding from a previous relationship. And these are the five hard truths about Jeezy and Jeannie Mai's divorce that could save your marriage. And that's why you heard my passion, is how to save your marriage. Because I believe as a marriage and the family goes, so goes a community. As a community goes, so goes a city, so goes a state, and so goes a country, and so goes the world. And so we can start with a family. Let's save marriages. Let's make marriages happier again. So thank you for taking the time, my friend, to listen. I know it's hard, but I appreciate your listening. And I hope this was helpful to you. Okay. And I want to encourage you to, if you're struggling in your marriage, get some help. Get some help. And you heard I mentioned, I've covered a number of topics on my podcast and also on this channel. Please familiarize yourself with them, access them, listen to them, and hopefully they can help you. Again, subscribe to the show, subscribe to this channel. And if you're in a podcast, subscribe to that as well. And share this episode and this video with at least one other couple. Okay. And the other links I mentioned today will be in the show notes, in the description that follows this this video, okay, on this episode today. So thank you for taking the time to listen. And remember to take that quiz. And remember, God loves you. And God loves you even if you're divorced. Right? He loves the divorce. God loves his creation no matter who and where you find yourself. God loves you and he wants the best for you. And he's just using me to help you to recognize this is one of those things that you can do to have a better outcome. Now, if you want to learn more about how to make your marriage happier again, I encourage you to check out my video that you'll see somewhere here on this video, this channel, how to build a stronger marriage. Check out that video where I share with you the Happier Marriage Renewal Roadmap. And you can also find other helpful resources at kingslegrant.com that sponsors this channel. kingslegrant.com. You can find other resources there as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share with at least one other married person. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I love to talk to you. If you have watched me, I answer as much as I can all the comments that are shared, good, bad, or in between. So please, I don't take it personal. I do my best to help you in the comments as well. So thank you. May God bless you. And I'll see you on the next video on this channel and also the next podcast for those who are listening via podcast. God bless you. And I hopefully I'll see you then. Until that time, peace out.